during the few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Open Paddock Live Radio. I think this is the fourth time that we've done this, so we're getting a little bit better at it. Special welcome to everybody who's tuning in live via ETV Live or ETV Live Radio. We also have the High Def channel on the iTunes playing the show as well. So we want to thank everybody for joining us out there in the radio world. Sean joining you as I always do with partners in crime. Mike, say hello to everybody.
Good evening.
We've got J. Douglas Patterson. Hello, Doug.
Hello.
We also have our guys in the background there. We've got J.D. Webb and John Westling who are producing their show for us. And tonight we have a special guest as he is now in the chat room. We have with us Martin Plowman from American Le Mans Series fame. Martin, welcome.
Thank you, guys. How you doing anyway?
Oh, we're doing. You, sir, are the first racing driver to be on the live show.
I thought I told you, I'm not a racing driver. I'm a fantasy football team owner.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. We'll have to have you on once a week for about 5 minutes then so that you can give us the lowdown on who we need to draft or who we need to be looking at on the waiver market.
Yeah, like who's going to pick up on the waiver, who to drop, picks and flop this week.
Yes, exactly.
Last year was my first year, and I'd say I got pretty lucky. I was good at finding some diamonds in the rough. Like I can brag that I picked out Victor Cruz long before he became famous. That's my claim to fame.
Nice.
Martin, I've got a quandary. Week 2, I can start Des Bryant or Wes Welker. Who do you think I should go with?
I'd stick with Brian. I don't know. I think Wes Welker's kind of in the shade at the moment, but doesn't Des Bryant have all those bodyguards around him at the moment? So he's kind of mollycoddled a bit. You know, he's basically being babysitted by the team at the moment. So I don't know. Is he going to be strong enough?
Interesting. I think
it's good advice from the British guy.
There you go.
And honestly, I think that you do still kind of. I do think you still kind of owe. Besides the setup help you gave me earlier for my iRacing, I think you still do owe us here at the paddock a favor because I beat you. I beat you in that iRacing thing, and I never got to drive your Indy car because then you went to ALMS, and then I never got to drive your ALMS car. So I think that the perfect payback for Martin Plowman, and something that's just a bit embarrassing, would be to have you be the fantasy football correspondent.
I'd love to. That'd be an honor to be that.
So not only will we be the motorsport show for all things motorsport, but you can also have your 5 minutes of fantasy help from a British guy.
It's like broaden my horizon, I don't need to be like so close mind, one track,
Yeah. So, all right, well, we got quite a few things to talk about, and Mark, we'll get into your day job here in a minute, as your night job has now turned into a freakish fantasy football correspondent for Open Paddock. I guess we all have alternate duties, as I am the vodka monitor, Mike is the neighborhood beer meister, and Doug knows everything that is gin. So, you can be the fantasy football guy. All right, well, let's talk about a few things that we had going on. I'm going to mix up the order of the show notes just a little bit, and that is we're going to obviously start with motorsports in brief, but we're going to go ahead and kick off real quickly with the WRC Germany review. Sebastian Loeb wins. Oh.
Surprise!
We're done.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, so Sebastian Loeb won his 9th German Grand Prix. German Grand Prix, I'm sorry. German Rally. Jeez, I'm mixing the...
You're salivating about spot.
Rally Deutschland, come on.
Rally Deutschland. It was Sebastian Loeb winning by a comfortable margin after a number of crazy incidents happening to a lot of the top cars. Jari-Matti Latvala finished second, albeit 2 minutes behind.
Hey, he finished.
Yeah, true. Mikko Hirvonen finished third. 2.5 minutes back. Osberg is 4th. Atkinson 5th in the Italia Mini, so a good run for him. And Ogier and Mikkelsen in VW Skodas finishing 6th and 7th. So good performance for the VW guys as they continue to move forward and release that car here before too long. Other finishers, Solberg would finish P12 on Super Rally, as would Thierry Neuville. So leading the power stage time, Sebastian Loeb won the power stage time, followed by Mikko Hirvonen, and then Andreas Mikkelsen finished 3rd in the VW Skoda S2000, mind you. So that's proper speed right there.
Ooh, nice.
Indeed, and that's a first for the power stage for somebody actually scoring points in a power stage in a S2000. So
yeah. Well, we also had an interesting development. We have 2 interesting developments to talk about, actually, in the news section of the WRC. That is, Armando Arroyo is suing his team and is looking for relief from the FIA after he thinks that he was wrongfully terminated from the Motorsports Italia, which does run Mini Portugal. They pretty much told him to leave and said, you're injured, you aren't going to drive. And he said, no, I am going to drive. And they said, no, you're fired. And so he's suing them. Chris Atkinson is his replacement. Obviously, just by this weekend alone, Atkinson made a world of difference in that car. So performance matters, and Arroyo was not performing. So that's just how to do it. And the FIA didn't have much sympathy for him and says that they're not going to, they're probably more than likely not going to do anything about it. So there you have that. And then in some other news that came out today, we found out in the WRC that one Mr. Robert Kubica has been, there's heavy rumor, which is nearly factual. Colin,
Nearly factual. I like that. Nice caveat.
it's nearly factual in the sense that I can't get Malcolm Wilson and the Ford team have not actually said anything about it, but Colin Clark, who I trust, when it comes to the WRC news, did say that Robert Kubica did test a factory Ford Fiesta in France, actually, last month. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was under the radar. So that's what we had going on. So that was kind of interesting. It'll be interesting. I think Robert Kubica would do fine in the WRC. I think that's something that he could compete in, even with his accident and his injury. And it'd be interesting to see where he goes forward. I think he could see success in that championship. So, any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
And it'd certainly be interesting to see Kubica in a car after the calamity that was sustained on his arm and everything of that nature. We're certainly pulling for him.
Oh yeah, I mean it was nasty. It was in a rally car that he nearly died.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of interesting.
And then seeing the Hinkelstein calamity of this past weekend, you wonder why he's willing to get into a rally car again.
Oh, I know. Those things are so nasty.
Yes.
So you cannot beat those things. But all right. Well, let's talk about. We'll get into Formula One and some other random motorsports news in a minute. But let's talk about the WEC. This is a little something else that is a little closer to home for one Mr. Plowman. We had the in both senses because it's sports car, and it was in his home country. We had the WEC racing at Silverstone. It was actually Audi taking the victory over Toyota, but the Toyotas were competitive all weekend. Martin, did you watch any of that race?
I tried to grab it on TV, but I was just trying to follow online on Twitter. My co-driver David was racing in the event, so he's pretty good at keeping up to date. Keeping his fans up to date. So I should have a word with him because he seems to be spending a lot of time on the phone, during the race. So I hope he's not doing that, during our races.
Nice. Well, let's see. It was a good weekend. The Audi guys were pretty impressed with the Toyotas, in the sense that the Toyotas did finish. Well, it looks like they were on the podium. So they were on the podium. That's a big news, and they were on the second step of the podium, mind you. So that is actually a proper result for them, and I'm going to tell you why. It's like their second race, second or third race or something like that, and they're racing against Audi, who owns hybrids and all that the hybrids, the e-trons, all that kind of weird scientific stuff. And for Toyota to come out and do that, I mean, that's impressive. That's an impressive run.
Yeah, certainly.
So yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. It looks like Toyota may have found their niche.
An interesting other WEC news. It sounds like the Chinese event, I think it was at Zhuhai, to wrap up the WEC had to be pushed back a day or something of that nature due to scheduling conflicts. And I'll just go into it. When you go into these Asian events, you never know what's going to happen. Just ask IndyCar.
Oh, nice.
And cart.
Yeah.
And kart.
And Champ Car.
Champ car. And the ALMS, the Asian Le Mans series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know which one that is. So
Yeah, we don't know anything about that.
yeah, it was just a really good event for Toyota. A good event in Silverstone. The WEC really picking up speed. And a lot of teams are starting to make that switch. Martin, that brings up my first question for you, good sir. You do know that your team's first year now in ALMS. Is there any talk of you guys potentially ever getting into the LMP2 at the WEC and going worldwide with this, or is the focus going to be on American Le Mans Series for now?
I mean, right now anything is possible. This year in ALMS was unexpected for me. As you know, going into this year, we still had our eye on IndyCar, and then it's like we're out of the blue. You just get an offer from a friend who's trying to help David get a ride in LMP2. And I know Patrick Long from my days in go-karts, and he called me up out of the blue saying, "Have you ever considered sports cars?" And at the time, I hadn't. But then I went down to the Sebring test a few weeks before the Sebring 12 hours. I liked what I saw. Patrick told me that the team that he was working with was Conquest. And ironically, I was also in talks with Conquest going into this year with IndyCar as well. And then the tri-party just came together, and it was just a nice fit. I got to meet David, and Eric was really excited about the program. I got to see the car, and it just seemed like a really good project for me.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, all right. So it looks like we'll probably, it's safe to say that we'll stay LMS for just a little bit longer. And now let's just move into that section. Actually, we actually had a question on the chat room, and I'm not sure if you. I think that you're also doing your fantasy football drafts, but this one, and I think we've kind of covered this here before. But now that you've had more time in the car, are you able to pick differences or big differences between the Indy car that you drove last year and the ALMS P2 car that you currently reside in?
Now, this is going to really surprise you. I honestly don't think there are too many fundamental differences between the cars. Driving style wise, it's pretty similar. The biggest thing, obviously, is that the LMS car this year in the P2 has got quite a bit less power than the Indy car from last year. But the LMP2 car's got carbon brakes, got a lot of downforce. The entire car is just one big floor with a lot of downforce on the car. So the way you attack the corner, the way you stab the brake, it's very, very similar to how you drove in IndyCar. We don't have a front wing on the LMP2, so adjusting aero balance is very difficult. On a IndyCar, if you've got a little bit of understeer, you come in the pits and they crank in half a turn of front wing, and that's fine. In the LMP2, to make an aero change, you've got to change the ride height or adjust the rear wing, and that's not a change you can make in the pit stop. So really, you've got to nail the setup in practice or before the race, and then you've got to just live with what you've got in the race.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's a good question.
No, I mean, it's for me, the transition was pretty smooth. It didn't take, I would say it didn't take more than maybe 5-6 laps to really feel like home in the car. I mean, I was kind of blown away. I thought I was going to be jumping into a completely new beast. I was pleasantly surprised when I got in there, got up to speed, felt the power. The power wasn't overwhelming because I was used to, like 600 plus horsepower from the IndyCar, and this got like 450. So the power wasn't crazy, but the first time I hit the brakes, my eyeballs came out my sockets. It was pretty powerful stuffing.
Yeah, yeah.
So your brake points would be a little different, a little later in the braking. Does it roll through the corners about the same, or are you faster through the corners, about the same, a little slower?
I'd say, yeah. I mean, given the fact that the tires we use are naturally harder compounds because of them being endurance tires, an IndyCar tire is made to last, I don't know, in the ballpark of maybe 100 clicks, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
These tires will run 300k easy. We can easily double or triple stint a tire. In qualifying, the peak of the tire is the first 5-6 laps, and then it'll fade and drop off maybe half a second. And, the IndyCar is about the same. But after 30, 40 laps, 30 laps on the IndyCar tire, you're down to the canvas and you're desperate for a pit stop. In the Le Mans car, you're doing 70 laps, and your fastest lap is probably the lap before you come in to change the tires.
True. So let's talk about one other thing with the car. You just came off a victory 2 weeks ago. You won the P2 class at Road America.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know, right? That's impressive because I remember driving with you on the iRacing at Road America in the IndyCar. So I knew that you were going to have a good time there and have a good results. And you had multiple P2 cars, quite a few P2 cars actually. We had obviously the 2 level 5 TIE fighters, and then we had also Patrick Dempsey's entry was at Road America as well. So how was the competition on track? Because you seemed to cruise pretty easily to victory. Did you guys just have it locked down that well that weekend, or explain to us, I guess, that race?
Honestly, it wasn't a comfortable win. I mean, the final stages, it was the way the race turned out. It was comfortable in the end, but all weekend, the level 5 guys of Christoph Bouchou and Scott Tucker, they were really on it with their setup. And in practice, the times were maybe like a 1 minute 56, which is a pretty solid time. Going out in qualifying, new tires, low fuel load, Bouchou went out and did a 54.4. I was thinking to myself, how on earth am I going to match that? I'm thinking they were sandbagging all weekend and then lay that down. So I went out, once my tires were in the window, I just put 4 wheels off the track everywhere and just, laid everything down for 1 lap, and I did a 54.2. I surprised myself what the car could do, and that was ringing every inch out of the car. I came close to crashing it a few times in qualifying. And then during the race, I mean, the 2 cars weren't separated by more than a few seconds before the driver change. And right before the driver change, the cars were off sequence. I think we pitted a little bit early, take on some fuel and tires, and then they pitted for tires and fuel a bit later on. So we were kind of playing different fuel strategies throughout the race, and it was definitely in our favor until that final full course yellow. And then with 45 minutes to go, I had to pit for fuel and tires, and they had to do fuel only. So that really, really messed my race up. I was starting at the back of the lap cars on new tires, so I had the advantage there, but I didn't have the advantage on the track.
All right.
So I had to pass the second place car to get back in front of him. But then the leader of P2 was way down the road because he had cleared all the traffic. But luckily, he was a bit too aggressive in the traffic and picked up a puncture, and that put him behind me. So then we ended up being a lap in front. So in the end, it was a comfortable win, but during the race, it was anything but easy.
All right. It was actually, yeah, I guess it did seem a bit easier, but you guys were running great times. And, again, you did just a absolutely, spirited drive. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it was just fantastic stuff. So, it was really good. And a great win. That's your second because you guys won at Mosport as well. Before, so that was good. It was good to follow up another win. Now, one of the questions I have, and then we're going to get into some of the questions in the chat room, and that is, how does you and Level 5 are massive competitors. It's always like a nip-tuck battle, it seems, between the two of you. How is that pressure of after, 4, 5, 6 hours of driving and level 5 being right there? I mean, right there, absolutely no window to breathe. How does that change your driving style or make you a better race driver given that constant pressure?
I mean, it definitely improves your mental endurance and mental stamina, that's for sure. I can tell you that, not many guys outside of, within the IndyCar circuit I've heard of a guy called Christophe Bouchou, but when you check his resume, he's like one of the legends of sports cars, and he's won pretty much anything you can win in endurance racing against sports cars. And with no disrespect to, guys like Ryan Hunter-Reay, but when Ryan came down to Sebring, you'd expect him to blow out, Bouchou at the water, but Bouchou was faster than Ryan down at the Sebring. So it's kind of a testament to the level that, this guy races at. So, when he's behind you and you know that he's going to use your car over the top, left, right, underneath you, whatever it takes to beat you, you've got to be on your game to win the race.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the questions that are in the chat room here. We got quite a few, so let's bring them on here. And let's see. Okay, so the first one is, does the P2 car have more body roll than an Indy car? A better spring setup seems that you guys attack the curbs harder in the P2 cars.
Well, I'm pretty easy on the curbs. I think that question should be more for my teammate David.
Oh my!
He's obviously he's at the gentleman driver, but there's not much gentleman-like about him, though. He's very aggressive, and I must say I've been very impressed with him this year. Mm-hmm. It says a lot that for a guy that's been racing for just over 4 years, he's regularly within 1 second of mine and Bouchou's pace. So he's very impressive. He's a very fast learner, and he takes the car to the limit a lot, and sometimes a little bit over the edge. So it's Eric's and my job to just screw him down a little bit and say, hey, just take it easy, breathe, drive at 90%, and you'll be fast.
Nice. So what you're saying is that one day, theoretically, from what I just heard, we could be driving. I could be on your team.
Sean's saying, so you're saying there's a chance.
I could be that gentleman driver, and I'm aggressive. I can drive at 90%.
Well, all the money you're making from this radio show now, the fancy new show, you can pay for a ride and sponsor me maybe.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I do. I did say that if I ever won the lottery that I would sponsor you in whatever car it is that you chose to drive, as long as it wasn't NASCAR. No disrespect to the NASCAR fans. Let's see. Another question.
Usually when people say that, they really don't mean it.
The slower traffic, there's 20 slow cars, like the GT cars, that you have to battle on track. How much do you have to change your driving style and all that kind of stuff to deal with those slower cars? Because they always say on the television coverage, you have to know how to pass, and you also know how to have to be passed. But specifically when you're attacking, because there's very few times that there's people who are actually faster than you. I mean, the P1 cars is about it. And then you have but then you have all those GT cars that make up that massive GT field they have. How do you deal with those guys, and how does it change your driving style?
It's incredibly stressful. I mean, it's part of the job that I'm still learning. I'm far from being where I'd want to be, in terms of getting through traffic. There's a fine line between aggressive and reckless. When you're coming through the slower traffic, there's a huge closing rate of speed, sometimes 50, 60 miles per hour. But you think they'll get out of your way, but these GT guys, they're not idiots. These are pro drivers. These are ex-Formula 1 drivers. These are world-class drivers fighting for their own race within a race. And if you try and put your car on the outside of a Corvette in the wrong place, he's got a lot of metal around him, and he's going to use it and just shove you off the track. A few times this year, like the outside of the corner, I forget, just after the corkscrew in Laguna, I can carry like 30 miles an hour more than the Porsches maybe, and then they brake early, turn in. I went around the outside of one Porsche, tried to go around the outside of the second Porsche. The guy knew I was there, but I was in his line, and he just drifted out, and I went into the grass. Because we can't take damage, but they can take a lot of beating, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure. So great questions coming out of the chat room, and we want to say special thanks to all those guys over there giving us those questions. And here's the big question: 2013. The season is coming down to a close. Motorsports season, even though it's August, it seems a lot of the championships are starting to kind of peel off a little bit. So, the question being, have you and Eric talked about 2013 in Le Mans? Are you looking at going back to IndyCar with your newfound skill set? What is in the future for one Mr. Martin Plowman, besides being a fantasy football correspondent?
Yeah, I'm turning pro there, so I don't know. Honestly, at the moment, it's very early in that respect. I mean, we're obviously just focusing trying to get through the end of the season, but trying to be honest as I can. And if tomorrow I was to receive an offer to go to IndyCar, then it would be a dream come true. If tomorrow I got an offer to do the LMS, again, it would be a dream come true. Racing in the LMS this year was probably the best thing for my career. It's opened up my eyes to a world outside of single seaters. It's kind of given me a taste of diversity, and given me the confidence to know that I can do more than just open wheel cars. Because I grew up doing open wheel cars, and my focus was on, IndyCar, F1, that kind of thing. So to go into sports car world and meet those guys there and to do pretty well there, it's given me the confidence to know that if all fails, there's chances for me outside of IndyCar and ALMS.
All right. That's great stuff. Last question, and then we'll let you go, Martin. I know that you're going crazy with your fantasy football draft going on there. So
I think my destiny's already decided. I'm pretty much in the toilet for this year, I think.
Nice. Oh, my. And you want me to take over one of your teams. That's not going to work, dude. So last question, though. Definition of a great race. It's a question that's come off of Wind Tunnel. This is coming from Bill. He's saying that he shamelessly stole this question from Wind Tunnel. So that's okay. We'll take those on here because I think I'm better. I'm better in every aspect than Dave Despain. I'm funnier. I look better. I'm not old. So I've got him wholeheartedly. So we'll just say that's an open paddock question.
You've got a great face for radio.
No, exactly. That's such a nice thing for you to say, Martin, because you know that I'm the face of your next race team. I'm the face of it. So you need me to be there. I'd be like the Patrick Dempsey of your race team.
Oh man, I was thinking about that. When I was in Indy Lights, often the Andretti Lights drivers would get paired up with the Andretti IndyCar drivers. And I would always get lumped with Danica to my left or right. And in the autograph sessions, that she would have a queue in a line for miles. So because I was next to her, I then, of course, had to sign as well. So I was stuck, with Riders Crown for 2 hours. And then, fast forward a few years, our team is always sitting next to Patrick Dempsey's trailer when we do the autograph sessions. So I just can't get any respite.
Yeah, nice. And it's actually funny that you mentioned the autographs because I was going through all my racing memorabilia stuff the other day, reorganizing my all the die-cast cars and everything, and I actually found your Panther Racing Hero card that I got from you at Kansas Motor Speedway, I think it was. A couple years ago, obviously, because you were with Panther at the time, I actually found that, and it said, "See you at the track." And now every time I go to the track and you're there, I always see you there. Last time was Indianapolis, when you were spotting for Beatrice that I seen you there. So I thought it was just kind of ironic because at that time we were no way, shape, or form ever hardly running into each other at the track. But I will have you know that I did take that hero card and I slid it into the into my 2011 Indy 500 winning car of Dan Weldon. I slid your hero card in there out of respect. So definitely a good connection. And the reason why I did put it there. So just thought it was a bit funny though that I did find that hero card. So last question though, like I said. Or next to last, because somebody else asked one that I want to ask because it's funny. But what is your definition of a great race other than winning the race?
See, I need some pageant training from Nicole. She can answer questions on a dime, 15-second soundbite. I think the PC answer would be something where you have given your all, you've fought valiantly. I don't know. Second still sucks though, doesn't it? Though I'm sorry. uh, I think it's acceptable if you've maybe started at the rear of the field. There's no expectations on you to do well, but you've shown elements of like greatness. Some great brave maneuvers, some big ballsy passes, and you've taken something away that nobody else did on that race. But you didn't get the result that you could have done, and maybe that was a good race.
All right.
But I think from experience, though, those races are feel-good factors. You come out of the car and you're pumped, and then you go, yeah, that was awesome. Did you see that move? And then you look on the timesheet and you were, on the results, and you were 7th. And then next year you look back at it and you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't really a good race.
Well, somebody in the chat room asked if the next question, this is actually coming from John, one of the producers, can Martin get Sean a date with Danica? Don't answer that question because I don't want. Don't answer that question because I don't want one.
I was going to say, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, I've had enough females slinging estrogen for one lifetime. That's why I got a divorce. So I don't need that.
And half our viewership just left.
Yeah, right. They're like, who is that idiot? No, but I did see a good bit. She is actually. She is proper funny. I watched a YouTube video of her driving around Indianapolis with Alex Lloyd, no less, talking about the difference between NASCAR and IndyCar. And I mean, she was cursing like a sailor. I was like, that's funny.
I took a car ride with her for an event with Andretti in 2010 at the winery, and I swear we nearly died a few times. It was scary. We were like weaving in and out of traffic, and whew, Nicole was agreeing. She did an amen there.
Nice. That's hilarious and concerning on all many levels. I mean, did you now? One question: did you see her hit the shoe, Martin?
I'm sorry?
I said, did you see her hit the shoe? You might have been racing, actually. Well, you may have been busy in Road America, but did you see her hit the shoe?
No.
At Montreal. She hit a shoe in the nationwide race that she was winning.
A little flip-flop, wasn't it?
No, it was a proper shoe. It was like,
a real shoe. I thought this was some technical term you were trying to tell me.
No. She hit a shoe on track.
Oh.
So I don't know. Have you ever seen a shoe, or what's the craziest thing you've ever seen on track?
I don't know, actually. 1 second. What was that? Oh yeah, a few years ago. Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole.
Helping out.
A story about that when the matter hit that deer at Road America.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
I hit a bird. But that wasn't nice. It kind of splattered everywhere.
Ew. That's disgusting. Good God. All right. Thanks so much for coming on, Martin. We're going to let you go because it's getting pretty late your time. You're in the Eastern time zone, and we've got to finish up with some IndyCar stuff. Hopefully next year we'll actually be talking IndyCar with you, or, I don't even mind talking ALMS with you, but you're doing an absolutely fantastic job on track. And it's always a pleasure to watch. I watch every race, and I brag to all my friends. I'm like, yeah, you see that? You see that? And yeah, so I'm like, you see that guy driving? I beat him in iRacing 2 out of 3 races.
Well, once I get my gear back from Florida, we need a rematch.
You want a rematch? You got it. I'll drive anything that you want to drive except for prototypes and Indy cars. No, we might be able to do prototypes and maybe even Indy cars because I'm getting better at those. So, but yeah, it was a massive pleasure to have you on the show. As always, our best regards to Nicole in the background, and thanks for setting this up for us and everything. So, and I guess we will just talk at you next time then, man.
Thank you, and all the best with the new show. Keep it up, man.
Yeah. Best of luck this weekend in Baltimore. We will all be watching eagerly as you take the win from level 5 yet again.
Oh, I hope so.
So, all right. Best of luck, and we'll talk here soon.
Thank you. See you now.
See you. All right, so let's move on with the rest of the show. Special thanks again to Martin for coming on. He's always so. He was the first. I think he was the first racing driver we ever had on the show. And then
Live, yeah.
Yeah, live. Well, I mean, period. Aside of John, we had John Cassidy from Last Ditch Racing, the American Rally Team driver. He was on, and then we also had. But then Martin was like the first proper open wheel guy we had. And it was great. It's great to talk to him all the time, and it's great to, his girlfriend, his better half, rather, Nicole. She always helps out in getting Martin on the show, so we want to say special thanks to her, Plowy PR. But let's talk about the rest of the stuff because we're already half in to the show, and we're kind of on a time crunch. But we have Formula One this weekend at Spa. We're not going to get too much into it because it's Spa. It speaks for itself. It's amazing. But the best thing that we did hear about them is that they have renewed their contract through 2015. They did get a price break, reportedly got a price break. So that's fantastic news, really, for Spa, because I was always afraid that we were going to lose Spa for good.
Yeah, one would question. I mean, that was one of the event organizers saying that they got a price break. And one would question if they got a break in the price or they got a break in the 10% escalator every year that Bernie throws in. But it is great to see Spa continue. I mean, it's like you said, it speaks for itself. It is one of the venerable tracks left in the F1 circuit. And it would be a major shame to lose it. So, very cool.
Yeah, so we'll be looking forward to that. We also have news that Ferrari is testing their V6, their 2014 V6 on the dyno. So as teams now begin to move forward and look into the 2014 regulations because of how drastically different they are, it now looks as though Mercedes, I think it was Mercedes and Renault. Yeah, Mercedes and Renault had already been working some initial groundwork for their engines, and Ferrari now has their 2014 V6 on the dyno. So, very
cool. And no word on the Pure group. I mean, they remain without a buyer, so it's certainly getting desperate for them because at this point nobody has jumped in to badge that engine, and it looks like, as I think Martin Whitmarsh was saying a couple weeks ago, that it looks like they're going to have 3 engines for 2014, and F1 is going to shrink a little bit as far as the engine side goes.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see exactly where we go with that. But
that is, of course, unless Lotus decides to come up with an engine. Speaking of Lotus,
yeah, I started to say I was in the middle of a drink of the old vodka there, and cue the music.
Yes, in F1, IndyCar, WC, Rally, and Douchebag CEO News of the Week, Danny Behar is suing Lotus.
Oh, I love the douchebag CEO of the week.
Yes, wrongful termination or something like that, and he's suing for somewhere in the order of $6 million. I don't even really care to regurgitate too many of the details, other than Lotus is going to countersue. I seem to recall, Lotus firing him because he had used a bunch of their money to expand his houses or something like that. So, what fun.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. That whole Lotus thing is just an absolute, it's a mess. So it's good to see, he's going to go ahead and sue, but it'll be interesting to see what he gets. I don't think he's going to get much because, you can't sue somebody for money they don't have, because it's apparent in every racing championship they've been in that they don't have the money to do shit. So, so next. Okay, so let's get into IndyCar real quick here. We got Sonoma this weekend is what was on tap. And as they always say, before you race, you must qualify. So as we noted last week on the show, it was scores changes for the circuit overall. But even with those scores of changes, all things remain the same. Will Power taking pole position in a rather dominant fashion, as he was clearly the class of the field for most of the day, leading second place teammate Ryan Briscoe by almost 0.7 of a second at one point. He was absolutely like power down. So we had some good stuff in qualifying. We had Will Power qualifying pole position, Ryan Briscoe qualifying alongside his teammate. Third place was Sebastian Bourdais, Roger Piesky, Jay Piesky, son of Roger Penske. Is
Oh, wow.
his car.
Roger's already calling out the hit squad on you.
Exactly, that's fine. Bring it on. He's got enough problems to worry about at the moment. I'm the least of his concerns. He needs to stop his son from peeing on people first. Then it was Castro Neves, Dixon, Franchitti, and Hunter-Reay, Tagliani, Pagenaud, and Wilson. So your championship contenders in the top 10. They're the 4 horses that we've kind of been talking about for the championship. So there it was for qualifying. And then we move in to the race. And the race was, I thought, the race was a pretty good race in the sense that there was quite a bit of passing overall. So, what do you think? What do you think about the race?
I think the circuit changes did help. There was certainly a lot more passing through the field. However, everything got bogged down around turn 7, and it was Puntapalooza down there.
Puntapalooza, I like it.
Because Elio Punstro-Neves took out Scott Dixon there, and then Oriole Serves drive-through was punting down there, and Alex Tagiomama was punting down there. And
oh my God! What the hell? What wow, Mike, you've just set the bar. Let's talk about that, because that was
wait, and even more, we had Ryan Punter-Reay at the end of the race.
Oh my God, he was the one who got punted.
No, he punted EJ Viso and got penalized for it after he got.
Oh yeah, after that, yeah, that's true. Yep, Punster-Neves, Tagiomama, and Punter-Reay destroying the field. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You'll never look at those drivers the same. So, but I want to move to Tagliani's move because Dixon got spun. He came back. He did fine. Let's talk about Tagliani.
Well, hang on. Before we move on to Tagliani, Dixon, he got taken out by Roger Penske's hit squad. Probably not exactly that way, but he got taken out, and then he took himself out by his team leaving pit equipment in his way when they dropped his car off the jacks. So he got a drive through. He was able to recover somewhat from that. I mean, where did he end up finishing? Dixon ended up finishing 13th. Not fantastic, but certainly not as fast as he showed in qualifying, and certainly not the pace that he had shown. Because to get punted by Elio, that means he had to pass Elio, who started, never mind. No, Elio had to. Never mind. I won't go along that line because I was thinking in the inverse Polish notation direction of things.
All right.
Sorry.
So can we talk about Tagliani now?
Yes.
What the hell was he thinking?
Ooh, look, the inside of the track's open, and I don't need brakes.
Because I have Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Exactly. He must have been playing a little bit too much GT4 or something like that. And you know how you use other cars to help you through corners in that game? Yeah.
Yeah, that was bad.
Rubbin's racing.
I guess.
Oh, wow. And you have to be just devastated for Ryan Hunter-Reay because he was pulling himself up to finish, third in the race?
Oh, yeah. He was going to finish on the podium. He was going to barely lose any points to
exactly
to Power.
Exactly. And that's after the last race where he had a DNF. This was devastating. Just devastating to be taken out by, somebody who really doesn't have any bone in the fight. Granted, he was trying to pass Franchitti, and was screaming down on the inside of Franchitti, while Ryan Hunter-Reay was kind of trying to set himself up behind Briscoe and Power to maybe make a run off of that corner. So, it's really sad that it happened that way, but Tagliani, that's raw. And
yeah, that's that's nearly douchebag of the week material, because that was absolutely psychotic. And then to actually stand there and like try to debate it with Ryan Hunter-Reay, it's like, dude, you have no argument. You were a dumbass. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
If you lip read what was going on there, you saw him say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry several times. But Hunter-Reay wouldn't have anything to do with it. I mean, he basically said, what was it he said on the podcast, or on the broadcast? He said, I got Tagliani'd.
He was sorry, and you're right, he is sorry, because he had no business trying to make a move up the inside like that.
Yeah.
So
but that was a result of the calamity between Bourdais and Newgarden. Up to with about 20 laps left in the race, Newgarden and Bourdais were dicing for position out of the pits.
This was horrendous.
Yeah. Bourdais was trying to get around. Well, what was it? Bourdais had came out of the pits on cold tires, and Newgarden was behind him on track. Newgarden wanted the position. He didn't want to slow down to affect his race strategy, so he jockeyed with Bourdais for position. Bourdais was able to make it stick out of turn 7, the hairpin at the end of the drag strip. But coming out of that, Bourdais got squirrely and just threw it all over the track and took Newgarden straight into the wall. I mean, it was, when I saw that, I was like, I've seen this before, and it happened to Dale Earnhardt.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what it looked like, because it was just a sudden turn right into that wall, and it was a hard hit for both of them. Bourdais said it was the hardest hit he's ever taken.
Oh, wow.
And Newgarden came away with some damage to his fingers, and he's going to be replaced by Bruno Junqueira at Baltimore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Good cred for Bruno.
Yeah, indeed, but he must have been shopping at the mall, Somebody just called him out of the blue, hey, we got a race seat for you.
Yeah, true.
I've heard that happens in Indianapolis.
Oh, my. That's just wrong on so many levels, man.
No, it's not wrong. It's just what's happened in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
okay. Let's see what else we had. We had the race. The race finished like this. Ryan Briscoe pipped teammate Will Power on pit road, actually, to take the win.
Yeah, and that was a weird one, because this was Power came into pit, got through his pit stop, and got back out on track. But when he came into pit, that's when the whole Bourdais Newgarden calamity took place. So it was green flag up until then. That yellow comes out, and they announce, since it's all the way at the other end of the track, it's not going to affect the pits. They left the pits open. So we have Power come out, and he gets stuck behind traffic that isn't accelerating along the track, because they don't seem to realize, strategy-wise, they need to be going a little bit quicker, because they're going to lose positions.
Yeah.
They can pick up positions for anybody that's pitting. They can pick up those positions, all those sorts of things. And he was pretty upset, but, it is what it is. Briscoe was able to get out in front of him, and Briscoe was able to stay in front of him on 2 restarts.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Yes, he did. However, with Dixon being so far back and Elio being so far back, there was
Hunter-Reay being so far back,
and Ryan Hunter-Reay being so far back, there was no real incentive for Power, other than he's a race car driver and he wants to win. But big picture, there is no real incentive for him to risk trying to get ahead of Briscoe when he didn't need to really extend his lead in the championship. It was the smarter play for him, the safer play for him, just to pedal along there in P2. So now the question is, could he have gotten around Briscoe? I don't know. Briscoe is having a pretty darn good race, but
He would have passed him.
where everybody else was kind of skews whether whether Briscoe outraced Power at the end or whether Power was just content with P2.
I don't think Briscoe outran Power at the end. I think Power was content slightly. Didn't want to take a chance to take out the teammates, but at the end of the day, I'm going to give 70,000 times out of 70,000 times, Will Power is going to beat Briscoe no matter what he says on the television, because I just don't think Briscoe's that good. And that's the thing that made me so mad about this race, because Briscoe won the race, Power second, Franchitti with a shocking third, Barrichello fourth, a great run for Rubens, and fifth for Graham Rahal. But honestly, it's like, oh, how convenient. Ryan Briscoe wins as soon as silly season starts to come about. And it's like, honestly, he needs to, this is the dangerous thing. Roger needs to seriously evaluate this. Is it really worth running Briscoe next year and keeping this 3-car framework going? I mean, it was always been a 2-car Penske operation until Will Power came into the fold. Briscoe hasn't performed all year. He has, and I don't want to hear about, well, he's had bad luck. No, he's just sucked this year. Last year, maybe bad luck, but this year he's sucked. And
well, you know my feeling on luck.
Well, yeah, and he's finished like pretty bad. I mean, he's just not overly that. I mean, he's just not. Power says he's one of the quickest guys, but I just don't see it. So I just don't see it on a weekly basis. I mean, he comes alive like once a week, or I mean once a year. He'll like come alive. He's won pole position for the 500, which is a nice payday, and then he's won at Sonoma. But outside of that, he's been rather kind of dormant. And it's just like, when is that going to end?
Yeah, indeed.
So, because it's costing Penske, I think, and the grand scheme of things, I think that's, aside of this year, I think that's why their teams have not been able to win.
Well, he's doing better than Franchitti.
Yeah, that's true.
But Will Power is doing better than everybody. He's 36 points up now on Ryan Hunter-Reay, and that is difficult for Hunter-Reay to overcome. Elio's a few points back. He's about 40 points back-ish. 41 points back. So, really it comes down to Hunter-Reay and Castroneves kind of have a chance to catch up with Will. Dixon has an outside chance, and that's about it. Pagenaud is back in 5th place at 337 compared to Will's 422, so I don't think we're going to see anything from that area. We're down to 4 people that can legitimately contend, but really it's Will Power and Hunter-Reay and Castroneves.
Yeah.
Now,
so we've got Baltimore coming up this weekend, and then Fontana 2 weeks after that, and that's the finale. That's the end of it, boys. So let's talk about Baltimore. Let's talk about the Podium Challenge real quick, because we did have that going on this weekend. And I need to see where I finish. I don't think anybody got any points, honestly. Oh, Mike, you might have gotten points.
I got 5 points because I had Franchitti
Nice.
to finish 3rd, and he did, and nobody else did.
No, did I not have points?
Nope. You had Power.
Oh, I had
Dixon,
Will win, didn't I?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I know I picked Will, but I picked him to win, and that
Yep.
Kills you. Yep.
So-
Yeah, it sure did.
So,
Sure did.
so Mike makes up 5 points this weekend.
Woo!
So he's trying to close the window.
I'm coming.
That's anyways. The points, I've got 204 points. Mike has 144, and Doug has 107. So I'm nearly 100 points clear, Doug. I don't really sweat Doug, but there's still a chance for Mike to pull something out here if he gets lucky.
That's all right. I'm still getting my bottle of single malt from you for the for Speed Geeks All Fantasy or All Racing Fantasy League. So
Yes, I've tentatively stopped that league as I've just run out of time to to send. I never send my stuff on time or anything, so it's just a lost cause, honestly. So let's talk about this weekend. Baltimore is coming up. Who do you guys have for the race? This is the second one. I'll tell you who I have. It's going to be Will Power, followed by Ryan Hunter-Reay, and in third place, as much as it disgusts me to say this, and makes me want to vomit everywhere, third place will be Graham Rahal.
Ooh. So say that again. First
is going to be Will Power. Second will be Ryan Hunter-Reay. And third, with a puking sound added to it, will be Graham Rahal. Thank you.
Wow.
Oh man, I don't think you need to puke for that. Who's your first out?
Codway.
Copycat.
I think it's not going to be his fault. I think he's going to get caught out.
Yeah. Copycat. That's exactly what I said last week. So Mike, looks like you're going with Dixon, Power, Ryan Hunter-Reay.
First out. Sorry, dear.
Simona.
Yep.
Simona. Really?
I can't. It's the best pick right now, guys. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
All right.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to go different here. I don't think Power is going to have a good race. I don't have any data. This is totally unencumbered by the thought process, as Tom and Ray Magliozzi would say. And I just don't like Power on the podium this week. I don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen, and he's going to suffer an unfortunate incident. He's not going to be first out, but he's not going to be on the podium. I like your pick, Dixon, for the win. Dixon is always strong on the street courses. Of course, so's Power, but I don't think Power is going to take it. Ryan Hunter-Reay will take second, and Elio will return to the podium in P3. Book it.
Nice.
And I think first out will be, hate to say it, Bruno.
Oh.
Wow, that's probably
Bruno
a
Ventura
very good one.
Forget that he doesn't have fenders, and he's going to get himself in trouble.
Mm.
And he's going to be going, I can block. Crap.
Yeah. Oops.
In other news, Chevrolet clinched the manufacturer's title this past weekend, so that's one less thing to worry about for the championship.
The what?
Yes, the manufacturer's championship.
The who?
Lotus clinched third place a long time ago. Just if you're keeping count on that.
I'm really surprised they didn't come in fourth.
Quite possible. Yeah, and there's more rumblings this week that Lotus is out at the end of the season, and the timeline of the decision was around Indianapolis this year, so no big surprise there.
Yeah, we shall see. We'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, I think the reason heard anything is simply because they need to go to negotiate with IndyCar on their severance from the series because they have a contract.
Yeah.
And they need to at least come to some sort of terms with the IndyCar series to allow them out of the contract, meaning give us money, Lotus.
Yeah,
But
true.
we need
money?
something so we can pay our team. Yeah, give us money so we can pay our team program next year.
Nice. Let's talk about the costs. It now appears as though IndyCar is closing in on an agreement that's going to reduce the cost of spare parts by 20%, this targeting Dallara, who has sole ownership on the chassis and the aero kits, apparently, since we're not playing that game anymore. But it looks like Brian Barnhart's been at the bargaining table, and apparently they're closing in on a 20% reduction. Obviously, the team's not happy with how much it's costing the costing them to have these new cars, and they're working hard and tirelessly to finish that.
Yeah. The IndyCar Series, they're continuing to look at other suppliers and manufacturers as well, including Xtract, the gearbox manufacturer, Cosworth, they do some of the electronics, Brembo, the brakes, and Firestone as well, which, that's kind of silly that they're going to Firestone, because didn't Firestone negotiate a increase in cost so that they could stick around and provide tires?
This is true.
I don't know if they yet negotiate might not be the right word.
No, Firestone says we aren't getting any value from our partnership with the IndyCar Series, so you need to actually pay for the dang tires.
Well, they said they were leaving, and the league had to come up. Well, what if we pay you more? And
Yeah, so these teams were all, screaming and crying about, these increased costs from the chassis, which when you kind of look at these parts, the parts cost, you're talking about maybe $100,000 a car more per season on parts if you're KV circa 2 years ago.
Yeah, no kidding. Good God.
However, didn't they agree to pay $300,000 additional for their tire bill?
Something like that. It was
So it's like
it was a little less than double, but it was close to double.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. That it sounds kind of hollow at this point when you've backed down all these costs all through the series. The only reason that Dallara could back down the costs to begin with was they had an agreement that they were going to be providing the spare parts. I can imagine that what this means is that this chassis is going to have, I think they initially were targeting 2015 for the next chassis, or 2016, I can't remember. I think all this means is that Dallara's contract with the series has been extended for a year or two so that they can mitigate their losses over a longer period of time on these parts. That would be my guess, and it will be interesting when we finally get word of this agreement, because I think that's what we're going to see.
Excellent.
Will it be what staves off the owners from trying to buy the series?
I found,
or are they going to go for that anyway?
I think that this is all hogwash. I don't know where it's coming from, but this week the Indianapolis Star, Kurt Cavan, went out and interviewed just about everybody in the paddock and their mom, and went through all these different players, and they all said, we're not involved in this at all. We're not interested in it at all. Ed Carpenter's response, and this is one that's key, is I'm certainly not involved, and neither is Tony. Because remember, at one point, Tony was talking about going and getting sponsors to buy the series, and
I could see him looking into that option. Although it wasn't a strong option. But the owners. There are some owners out there that have more money than brains, and to think that this is a good idea, I don't know. I don't know what you're smoking if you think that the owners buying the series again is anywhere close to a good idea. You might not like the way it's being managed currently, and we can debate that, but putting the inmates in charge of the asylum again is bad news.
Yeah. The next thing you know, they'll be taking away the press credentials from Randy Bernard and things like that, and saying that they can't be on the managing board, and go back to the days of when Tony George was kicked out of the kart managing board, and suddenly strange things happen once more. It's all happening again.
Yeah, true.
Why? Sorry, just throw this one last comment out there. Sorry, Sean.
Oh, no problem.
Why would the IndyCar? Why would IMS? Why would the Holman George family be interested in selling the IndyCar series when they finally have control of the series?
No, they wouldn't be.
Speedway. They've never had control since the days of USAC. They haven't had any control, and now that they have it back, why would they give it up?
Truth. So, all right, let's talk about the doubleheaders. We are running a bit close on time here. I try to get an extension on the broadcast on the radio. Make sure you tune in tomorrow on the HD Radio Network. This show, Open Paddock Live, will be broadcast on ETV Live Radio via the HD Radio Network tomorrow. So tune in then, unless you've probably already heard this via the podcast. We also will have the podcast. I don't know exactly what happened last week. I think
How can you not want to listen to it twice?
Well, I know. I would, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm not such a big fan of hearing myself talk, I would listen to it.
Really?
Could have fooled me.
I'm sorry.
Oh, too easy.
I don't talk that much there, so I leave all that to Doug. So I let him do all the talking. So, well, let's talk about doubleheaders. There was a nice bit about potentially IndyCar running doubleheaders. Or it was something mentioned by Randy Bernard talking about maybe 2 races per weekend, kind of something like they do with the Mazda, the Star Mazda Championship. A lot of times they'll run like 2 races over the course of a weekend.
Yeah, they have been, except for the ovals, and so is USF 2000. Well, USF 2000 had a triple header their last race weekend at Road America. The whole doubleheader thing, if it's just 2 feature-length races, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, I don't know. I don't know that I'm a fan of that. However, if you do it kind of like what, if you remember the ill-fated A1GP, they had a setup where they had a sprint race and a feature race.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a short sprint race, no pits, 1 tank of fuel, 1 set of tires, go all out. So balls to the wall racing for 30 laps, something like that, and then have the next day the full 2-3 stop feature type of race. I think that type of doubleheader would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been so well received that reportedly when Flavio was writing the rules for GP1 for next season, when the Concord Agreement falls apart, he was including that in the rules for GP1, right?
I don't know.
Actually, that was rumored. Don't think it's going to happen, but that was rumored. Anyway, yeah, again, this is Randy Bernard just saying this is something we're exploring because we think it would be of value to our TV partner to have more stuff that they can throw on the television to generate more interest in the series. But you have a lot of negotiation to do before you can say we're having them, because you've got to get the TV partner on board and saying, yes, we're going to broadcast your additional slots. Then you have to have the track, the promoter, get on board because they've already got a full race weekend and you got to make sure that they can put that in there. But it's in the promoter's best interest to get your featured cars for the weekend out on the track as much as possible. So I don't think that'll be a hard play. The next and most difficult thing is getting the team owners to agree to it, because you've got to come up with compensation for it. If you're asking them to go out there and run more than 1 race on a weekend, you got to know that they want a bigger purse.
That's it exactly. And you have maybe you look at 2 levels of title sponsorship. Sponsorship for the feature race and a sponsorship for the sprint race. If you're going to go that route, if you're going to do 2 feature length races, man, then I think I honestly think then the teams might have a serious beef.
Yeah.
Because that's more tires, that's more fuel, that's more risk, all 3 of which cost money.
Yeah.
You can't look at this, well, if you didn't run into anything, you didn't accrue any more costs, right? No, that's the wrong way to look at it. The right way to look at it is your level of risk, and that's how you put a valuation on what that weekend is going to cost. And doubling the miles that you're actually racing, you are significantly increasing your risk, and therefore your overtime, long-term overtime costs for racing in that way. I think if they're going to do this, then the team owners have a good argument. You need more team money. You need higher purses. You need more compensation for taking on that increased amount of risk.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's talk about something that I have once mentioned on the Open Paddock podcast exclusively, or actually I think it was on the radio. It was that recent. But Ganassi is now talking with Rubens Barrichello about driving that 38 car that Graham Rahal will be exiting this year.
Allegedly,
yeah. And it now looks like Rubens Barrichello is the man who might be taking that spot. It was mentioned. I've mentioned it before, and I thought that was going to be the car that he went into. You can go back a couple of shows and check it out, but I'm pretty sure that I said it. Did I not, boys?
I believe you did. Yes,
Yeah,
and this is Chip Ganassi is meeting with interested drivers like Rubens Barrichello and others to discuss taking over that seat. So let's not pencil him in just yet. I think it's pretty clear that has to be a very well-funded car for them to be interested in having it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they're going to have to bring the sponsors or the majority of the sponsors for that, just like Kimball brought the majority of the sponsors for his car, and Rahal brought the majority for his.
I see.
So, but Rubens can do that.
Yeah.
And he may be the best person for that seat just because he can.
Well, this brings up the question: what about the 83? Does Kimball stay? I think Kimball stays in the series.
I think
Does he stay in the 83?
I seem to recall him already announced as staying for next year.
Okay.
I seem to recall
he has
that.
not had anywhere near as good a success in the 83 as Rahal has in the 38.
Yeah, I think Rahal has done well this year. Kimball's shown signs of brilliance, but yeah, he's gonna have to step it up a little bit if he wants to stay. Because he right now, he's starting to slip into ride buyer status, big time.
Kimball?
Yeah.
Oh, he's not sliding into it.
Well,
he's already there, and that's not to say that that he doesn't belong in the series. I don't want to get into that argument. Everybody is, to some degree or another, a ride buyer now, right? It's just the nature of the way the business is. But when you look at Kimball's record versus Rahal's record, man, really, you're going to let? I know that the Novo Nordisk check is nice, but so is the Service Central check.
Yeah, true. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly which direction they go with it. Frankly, Kimball might not be performing as well in the car, but at least he knows how to shut his damn mouth. That's a good start. So that's a positive. I would hire Kimball over that just so I didn't have to hear Rahal bitch over the radio all the time. So
yeah, this is true. Yeah, well, he hasn't been a big fan of that team, has he?
Yeah. Well, I think that there have been a lot of things he's been unhappy with.
He's not real happy.
He's not happy because he doesn't feel the B team is getting all the assets from the A team, and you know what? You're not supposed to. Dario and Scott get the benefit because they're the guys who have won championships and 500s and races on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Don't come in and just throw your little snot nose around and say, "Well, my daddy was da 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 da." So sorry. Never mind. In other news, somebody else who might be filling the 38 seat would be Tyler Clary, who apparently got a gold medal at the Olympics in the 200-meter backstroke, and over the weekend was seen in the the IndyCar paddock, saying that he was going to be a professional race car driver.
Oh, nice. And
Oh, well, yeah, okay, that qualifies you to drive an IndyCar.
Certainly.
guess
I
what?
had a great time this
Faster than
weekend.
else.
I'm going to be a professional race car driver. It's like, well, that's great.
I mean, you just heard me and Martin talking beforehand. It's funny that he comes out and says that because I too am going to be a professional racing driver, and I heard that Doug is going to be a professional racing driver.
I'm in line for the 38 seat.
Oh, nice! I've already signed a contract.
Seriously, I mean,
Yeah.
That's great.
Well,
that
I
he
am going to be
came
a
out, but
racing driver.
It
just
was
not
funny
professional.
how this was promoted through the weekend. They're like, "Oh, Tyler Clary, he's going to be the next, the next American driver." And I spoke with Randy Bernard, and it was a great conversation. We talked about how we could get me into IndyCar. And you know what? Let's take the first step. Put your butt in a seat somewhere before you open your mouth.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the thing.
exactly.
Has he ever driven a race car in anger yet?
I don't believe so. And if he has, we're talking Skip Barber or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Not a-
it's can he do it? Sure. I mean,
Well, yeah.
fine,
I mean,
that's great.
He's going to work hard. I mean, that's the one thing that we can take away. He's definitely going to work hard, but at the end of the day, it is, is he going to have the raw talent to get the job done? And it's not something you can just walk in and say, "Oh, I've won a gold medal. I'm going to drive a race car, and I'm going to be good at it." I mean, to a certain extent, you almost have to have to be good. You almost have to have God-given talent, not just.
We've seen people that have said, "I want to be a race car driver and have the money to do it." Marty Roth.
Yeah.
And
Patrick
it
Dempsey's
it
kind of
has
the same.
not done well. And now Patrick Dempsey that's different.
What?
No.
He's going about it
Hear
right.
me out. Hear me out. Dempsey did a lot of driving outside, developing and moving up to where he is now. He didn't just start there.
Well, I don't think Clary said
So
he's going to.
is he cream of the crop? No, but is he a proper race car driver? Yes, he is.
Yeah.
But this cat, this swimmer, saying, "Hey, I'm going to be an IndyCar driver." No, you're not. Not right off the bat. You're going to be Marty freaking Roth, is what you're going to be.
Well, I don't think.
basically,
Straight into IndyCar. Start out at USF 2000 and work your way up, just like everybody else.
yeah, and I think Sean wants to butt in and say the same thing that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
He didn't say, "I'm going to go drive IndyCar next year." He said that he's interested in developing into a professional race car driver. He has competition, though, because their kids have been driving go-karts since they were 8.
Yeah.
That he has to compete with, that have a lot more driving talent than he does because they've actually honed it, and that's not something he's honed.
Saavedra,
So,
who had
Saavedra.
a pretty nice race at Sonoma.
Not so bad.
Really strong. I thought it was pretty cool seeing him take a couple of good passes. But yeah, you're right. You got a lot of talent in Indy Lights looking to move up. You don't think that someone's going to pick up Tristan Vautier? Seriously?
Oh yeah. Vautier's got that. He's good.
Yeah.
One more comment from the Sonoma weekend for IndyCar before we move into the Mazda Road to Indy, because that's where we're at in the show. F1 is in hiatus, right?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
All those lazy Europeans are taking their month-long holiday.
Yeah.
Except one Will Buxton, who showed up. He showed up at Sonoma this past weekend and was walking through the pits, and he thought it was funny because he said he got recognized more in the IndyCar pits than he did in any F1 event that he's ever been to, which is hilarious. Hey, Will Buxton, what are you doing here? Long-time fan, first-time visitor. If you want to read this, go over to his blog. He has a very long piece that he wrote up about his weekend with IndyCar. It was a blast to read because the guy was just jovial and writing how good IndyCar PR was and how they worked with him and how everything was in place and he was aghast at how great it was to be in the IndyCar in the press conferences and everything, because everything was laid out for him. He didn't have to work like an idiot to get all of the access that he got.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was beside himself because he really enjoyed it. And then he also pointed out that, the track at Sonoma is nothing like you'd see in F1, and it was atrociously unsafety oriented, basically.
Oh, nice. All right, well, that's awesome. I did see that, and he was really happy on Twitter talking about it, so it was a good time seeing all of that stuff. Let's talk Mazda to Indy as we close out the show. Doug, we're going to talk about the 3 Indy Lights chassis that have been kind of not really paraded out because we don't have pictures of all of them. But they're
we got pictures to 3 of them at least.
Well, I think that one of them was not actually a picture, but rather a rendering with that, and it also said,
okay,
these
they're
will be
all
similar.
renderings.
Well, no, I'm saying one of them said that this is not the real thing. This is just what it would look like, sort of, with a couple other things.
Wait, it's not the real thing. It's what it would look like?
No, it's not. They took the picture off of a different goddamn car, is what I'm saying. So, so there, you don't have real, like, no shit. This is, I mean, even the cat is not real.
But we've got elements that we can draw on. 3 of the losing bids, Swift, Dyson, which is, well, seriously, I've talked about this before. We know who's going to win the contract, right?
Exactly. Welcome.
It's going to be Dallara. Everybody knows that it's going to be Dallara. This is all for show. So Swift, Dyson with a bunch of ex-Lola people, and Miguel, the French outfit, who has backing from Brian Herta and Steve Newey. They all released renderings or drawings of concepts. How about we say it like that?
Mm-hmm.
Concepts of what they would be putting out. And I must admit the Miguel looks nice. It really does. But you have to realize that Miguel has never developed a car at this level, nor have they developed a car designed to run on an oval. They are primarily a Formula Ford F1600, F2000 type constructor. I think the top that they do is Formula 3. But so they're more around the USF 2000 level of chassis. This is well above the level of chassis that they have experience in creating. You can probably hear in the background that my baby daughter is very unhappy at the moment, and I apologize. But the Dyson with a bunch of ex-Lola employees, surprise, it looks a lot like the old Lola bid. Again, this is a nice looking car. It's sexy, it's sleek, but it's not terribly. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing this as the next Indy Lights car. Again, yes, Dyson has a lot of experience building chassis. Yes, they've got a lot of great talent with some of the Lola employees. But they dubbed this thing the Holman, and that's, I don't know. Are you trying to curry favor there or something?
Yeah, it's a little gratuitous. That's for
sure.
sure.
Yeah, well, it seems a bit desperate, is what it seems. And then the Swift. The Swift actually have the strongest. I think the next strongest bid to Dallara. And actually, in my opinion, I would love to see Swift get the contract. I don't think they're going to, but I think they have the best amount of experience in developing a car for the types of circuits that dominate the Indy Light series, the road and street courses. There's a couple of ovals, including Indianapolis, that they run that the Dallara car has been brilliant at. But with the abundance of road and street courses, like we're coming up here to Baltimore, the Swift chassis, which is based on the old Atlantics chassis, the old Atlantics chassis, the Swift 016.A, it was a great chassis for the Formula Atlantics, and it was Mazda powered. And this has been dubbed the 020.I .Indy, I presume, as opposed to .A Atlantic. But there's a lot of similarities between the rendering and the old Atlantics chassis. The rear wing's a little different, but the nose geometry is pretty much the same. The wing geometry is pretty much the same, and so are the side intakes. And so there's a real wealth of information that Swift can draw on to really put forward a strong bid. Really, I think the Swift bid, if you removed politics from the equation, I think that the Swift has the best car. I don't care what Dallara comes out with. I think Swift has the strongest bid. But when you put in politics, I still don't think that you're going to get around the Dallara advantage here.
That's a good point. I think that's what everybody said. Everybody said, "Oh yeah, that Swift car looks amazing," and then they said, "But it's never going to work."
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it.
So
Can't overcome politics.
No, you can't. That's a true statement. So, but yeah, continuing with it. So do you have a favorite then, Doug?
Well, like I said, if it were up to me, if they let me pick, I'd pick the Swift.
All right.
But realistically, if I were laying money on the situation, I'd put money on the Lotus. I'm sorry,
Lotus.
No, but anything on Lotus. I would put money on the Dallara. That shows you my opinion of Dallara, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. I was like, holy shit, we have breaking news here at the paddock. Apparently Lotus now makes chassis. With what money? Lotus announces their bid to join the Firestone Indy Lights, running on hopes and dreams. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens. But, yeah, it's great stuff there, as always, Doug. So let's just get into the closing moments here, though. The ETV Live calendar, all the great stuff that you've heard tonight. Hopefully you think it's great. Rather, you can find more stuff just like ours out at ETV Live. So this week's calendar looks like this: Thursday, August the 30th, at 6 p.m. Eastern, the show is going to be And the Winner Is Motorsports Show Live on ETV Live Radio with Wesley Outland and Mike Neff. Thursday, August 30th at 8:15, you're going to have the Gunner 4 SR, at Atlanta Motor Speedway on the Stock Car channel. Friday, August 31st at 7 p.m. Eastern, the Pit Report radio show with Dakota Ehrman and J.D. Webb. Weekly recaps and interviews. I thankfully was allowed to be on the show last week to talk IndyCar. It was a great time, so thanks to J.D. and the boys for having me. Friday, August 31st at 8:20 p.m. Eastern, the Friday Night Showdown, the hugely popular series here at ETV Live, is going to be at Atlanta Motor Speedway with Austin Atkinson and Mike Conti in the booth. Live updates from the second split race by Dakota Ehrman. So, and then tomorrow you can hear us on ETV Live Radio, powered by HD Radio Network, the Open Paddock Live radio rebroadcast at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So special thanks to everybody for listening to us carry on tonight. Doug, Mike, thanks as always for coming on the show and giving your opinions and talking motorsports. So tell the world good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for having us in your house, and look for the podcast here this week. So thanks so much. Have a good night.